Hey everyone, it's Carson Carpenter here to talk to you about what would happen if the US gets pulled into a war between Israel and Iran. Honestly, I think it's a bad idea, and I want to walk through why, the timeline of the effects, and how it'll affect us back at home. The Middle East is tense right now. Israel's hitting Iran's nuclear sites, and Iran's striking back. Let's break it down with some facts, see what some people are even saying on X, and figure out why staying out makes the most sense in this situation. I think we want a golden age that we were promised, not World War III.
I imagine what we are seeing right now is yet another attack, another launch on Tel Aviv, and we're seeing more projectiles now launching on Tel Aviv, which will likely be intercepted by this Iron Dome. But again, this is more intense, this is more frequent than what we have ever seen before between both Iran and Israel.
And so here's what's happened. On June 13, 2025, Israel launched a major operation bombing Iran's nuclear facilities and military leaders in places like Tehran. Iran hit back with over 100 drones and missiles targeting Israel. Things are getting intense, and Iran's enriching uranium to 60%, close to weapons grade, and Israel says they're months from having a bomb. President Trump's pushing for talks, but he's also said that we might step in if Iran attacks our people. And I don't understand why we just can't commit to not stepping in this conflict. If we do, it will no doubt escalate tensions to a boiling level. We need President Trump to commit to resolving peace, not just blindly supporting a war effort, kind of like Biden did in Ukraine. First, it's a military nightmare. If we jump in, we'd likely be launching airstrikes on Iran's nuclear sites, like Fordow, which is buried deep underground. Axios also says Israel doesn't have the right bombs for it, so we'd have to supply them or do it ourselves. But the Carnegie Endowment says that even our strikes would only set Iran's program back 1 or 2 years, not even stop it. Iran could just speed up and maybe even pull out of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. I am sure President Trump would be against it and try to stop that, but why give the enemy any momentum when we don't need to? Plus, Iran's allies like Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis could target our 2,500 troops in the region, in Iraq and Syria. It's signing up for a war that never ends, and we need to use the past to learn that going to war in the Middle East never ends with a quick resolution, and the only thing that is quick is how fast Lockheed Martin's stock goes up when we insert ourselves in the Middle East. And then there's the economic hit. Cheap gas will be a thing of the past unless if we ramp up drilling tenfold. War costs a ton, and not just in taxes and taxpayer dollars. The Atlantic Council says oil prices have already spiked 9% after Israel strikes. If we get involved, gas could hit $5 a gallon or more, with oil at $100 a barrel or more. And that's rough when you're already stretching to pay rent or buy groceries, or even save up to buy a house. The IMF says global growth could drop by 0.5% in 2025 if it escalates. Iran could also block the Strait of Hormuz, where 20% of the world's oil flows through. The short-term economic pain that was expected at the beginning of this administration could be prolonged into 2026, 27, 28, or even 2030. And jumping in could also push away China and Russia, which with Russia, we're trying to negotiate a peace deal in Ukraine, and Russia also backs Iran diplomatically. It also might strengthen Iran's hardliners and rally the people around them, like Senator Rand Paul said on NBC. Iran's threatening our bases, and the human cost, we could lose thousands of soldiers, like the 7,000 we lost in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I don't want to see any more families go through that. And I don't want to see US troops be the victims of inhumane drone attacks and be the peril to the cost of how modern war is carried out. It is not fair for human souls as it was in prior conflicts in history. It is a cutthroat business and disregards human dignity. Now let's check what people on X are saying, because that's where you see a lot of opinions, especially with conservative minds, but also liberal minds. Tucker Carlson's newsletter, which reaches millions of people, warns that backing Israel's aggressive moves could spark more terrorism in the region and across the world. I lean towards that, and why get tangled in someone else's fight? Another conservative, at X_Mize, with around 100,000 followers, says Israel keeps pulling us into their conflicts, and Trump's right to focus on the peace aspect. That definitely is a generalization of the conflict, but Trump negotiating peace should be the priority. And it becomes way harder once you start backing one side to convince the other that peace is the best option. Liberals are mixed too. At TPRC, a progressive with 200,000 followers, says Israel's dragging us into a war that'll only delay Iran's nukes a year. And then there's Chuck Schumer, the ultra-liberal senator, tweeting that Iran must never get a nuclear weapon. He's all for supporting Israel, but some liberals, like at Sean Bishop _ with 50,000 followers, see a no-win situation. And then there's Chuck Schumer, the ultra-liberal senator, tweeting that Iran must never get a nuclear weapon. He's all for supporting Israel, but some liberals, like at Sean Bishop, with around 50,000 followers, sees a no-win situation. If we don't back Israel, Iran will get bold, and if we do, it's a bigger war. X is full of commentary on this, but it is a different scene than what we saw in 2022, when Ukraine was attacked by Russia, where at first almost everyone unequivocally supported Ukraine, and that's just not the case in this conflict. Here's where I stand, and I would love to hear your take on it as well. I think getting into this war is a mistake. We've tried this before with Iraq, Afghanistan, trillions of dollars spent, millions of lives lost, and for what? More problems for us and more problems for them. A Pew survey says 50% of young Republicans, the people that are my age, are fed up with these endless wars, especially in the Middle East. And I'm right there with them. Iran's not a good guy by any stretch, but bombing them won't solve their nuclear program or change their government. It'll just suck us into a fight we can't win, while other countries sit back and watch. Trump's smart to push for talks in Oman, but if he goes to war, he's letting down the America First agenda and his bold vision of restoring an era of peace in America and around the rest of the world. And Reuters says we're still trying to get Iran to freeze their nukes. In fact, negotiations are happening on June 15, 2025 in hopes of this. That's worth a shot. Strengthening our bases is another good option. Last year, we spent $22.7 billion in aid to Israel, so they've got the support. And we need to focus on home more. We need to fix our economy, secure our borders, let Israel handle its own business, and that's not ducking any responsibility. It's called putting America first. And I've been out in Arizona talking to people ranging from college students to retirement homes. We're all tired of these far-off wars. The facts back it up. X shows even the big names are nervous about this escalating. And let's share this video and subscribe to keep this conversation going and find a resolution that fits the mainstream better. And visit our new website, otr-usa.com, for our latest developments. And like always, keep speaking off the record.